Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is if you have your natal Chiron in the sign of Taurus. I've already done a series of Chiron in the various houses of the zodiac, so it's good to also pay attention to what house your Chiron is in and the sign, and then what you're going to do is you're going to combine those influences and kind of figure out how that works for you. So Taurus is the ruler of the second house, which deals with possessions and, earned income and possessions, money in general, and your self-worth. So your net worth and your self-worth. And food is associated with the second house as well. So just to give you an example of how you can take it to the next level, let's say your Chiron is in Taurus and you have it in the first house. Well, Chiron in Taurus can also be having issues with your physical appearance. Taurus is ruled by Venus, and that's about beauty. So in the first house, that would exacerbate that tendency. And, also a sense of self. You might feel like your very self has been violated in some way, that you have not been allowed to be an individual. So I'm just giving you an example if it was in the first house or if it is in the first house. So we're going to just look at Chiron and Taurus right now. And I want to give a shout out to jessicadavidson.co.uk because I kind of perused some other articles, and this one seemed like, it had some bullet points that I could just riff on, things like that. So Taurus, well, first of all, Chiron can be a wound that needs to be healed. And that's why it's called the wounded healer, because once you master this, or you become healed, then you can help other people, because you know how the best healers sometimes are people who have been there and done that, and so they can tell other people their experiences, and it becomes a lot more effective that way. So Taurus is, I already mentioned that Taurus represents money that you earn in your possessions. So a person with this combination can have this wounding as it pertains to money and possessions. Now, I heard it, I don't know if it was this site or a different site because I was reading so much. It might have been a different site, but they were saying the wounding may have occurred early on, in early childhood, or they also mentioned past lives. And I have read something about Chiron maybe being karmic, so some kind of a karmic wound. And that makes a lot of sense to me, because sometimes people have wounds that really seem irrational because they can't be traced to specific traumas, you know what I mean? So that would kind of go along with this theory about it being from a past life. So anyway, it could be like, we'll forget about past lives because we can't, prove them, and it's not as tangible. But talking about early childhood, for instance, if you grew up with insecure finances, and especially if let's say your sun or even moon is in Cancer or Taurus. I'm thinking about certain signs that really crave that type of financial security. That could enhance the trauma, because that's already something that the person would feel very uncomfortable with. But in general, what that does when there's like financial instability when you're a child, it really creates problems, wreaks havoc within the first chakra, because that's the chakra of survival, and this is your foundational chakra. So if that is underactive, if that is something that is too fraught with problems, when the person grows up, even if they do everything they can to make more money, they can still have those old fears. So this is one of the reasons why you have to heal that, because otherwise it'll very likely be something that stays with you. And that can just lead to other problems. It's like kind of, when I think of the tarot, I think of the Five of Pentacles, which is kind of this lack consciousness. And even though you can apply it literally to finances and stuff like that, it's, to me, symbolic of a lack of trust in the universe. In They put it, Jessica Davidson puts it, I don't know if that's a real person or not. One of her bullet points is, find it hard to trust in the abundance of life. Well, I would go a step further and say the universe, whatever we call the provider, because a lot of people who do believe in God believes that God provides, or the universe provides. And then this kind of individual may not have that strong rooted foundation in knowing, and so they might be kind of shaky on shaky ground there. And as a result, Taurus is a sign that is known for possessiveness. Now, obviously, when we say somebody is possessive, we're saying that about people, but you can be possessive about your objects. Some people just, are like they're too attached to material things. And, but, speaking specifically about possessiveness in terms of relationships, the reason that this is associated with Taurus is because they're looking at people as their possessions, just like, objects. So if a person if there's a potential for the person that they're with to stray from them, they have to control that possibility. And they might get very nervous about losing a person in their life, because they have that tendency to kind of be grasping. There's a term in yogic philosophy called aparigraha, I think it is, and it means grasping. And really what they were saying is that is greed, that greed is grasping. But to me, it's about clinging to the material. And of course, you could say greed is clinging to the material. So maybe it's not that far off anyway. But I feel like it transcends just trying to hold on to something. There could be a strong identification with that thing. And therefore, it's like if they lose it, it's like they're losing a part of themselves. They may feel unsafe, insecure. More than anything, maybe I shouldn't say that. I think sometimes people identify with their possessions, or, you know what I mean, or they build their self-esteem based on what kind of things that they own. And if you have the sun in the second house, and maybe the sun is in conjunction with Chiron, who knows, but that might also give insight into how that person is operating. And I'm primarily an astrologer, but I do tarot readings as well. And I'm finding more and more that I'm kind of thinking of certain tarot cards when I'm talking about astrological things. And I was thinking of the Four of Pentacles here. And I was thinking of the Pamela Coleman Smith illustration from the Rider-Waite deck of the man who's like kind of hugging a gold coin. But it's like the Four of Pentacles. And it's supposed to indicate somebody who is very financially savvy, where they can manage money well, but sometimes it can be somebody who is too attached to their money, or greed could be associated with that card. So the same applies here. This can make you good at handling money, but the thing is that you have to, when you're dealing with an attitude of money, you have to be able to see beyond dollars and cents, because you could be a great steward of money. This site mentions developing a spiritual path in order to heal this issue, and I think that that's really wise, because if you have like self-esteem issues as it pertains to your physical appearance, your body, what have you, that is also kind of like something that holds you back, because it is superficial. The body is temporary. The more that you can understand the place of the body or the function of the body in the grand scheme of things, the more you'll be able to actually honor your body, be grateful for your body, but not to worship it or be attached to it. So you could say it's a fine line, but I don't think it's that fine. I think it's pretty clear cut that, we're gifted, if you will, bodies for a set amount of time. And that's it. You can't take it with you. You can't take your possessions, your money with you, and you can't take your body with you wherever you are going and whoever you are apart from the body. So understanding this can bring a sense of relief, and then putting that in proper perspective. And there can be like a lot of other things that go on with that, in terms of people who have a hard time, with their self-esteem based on how they look, is that they may be gorgeous, handsome people, and they really are convinced that they are ugly ducklings because of something that happened to them in the past, or just their own, I was going to say just their own neurotic tendencies, but maybe those are coming from another lifetime that cannot be immediately linked. But, the same thing applies for, like, if there are wounds about maybe being low income when they were younger, getting teased about the clothes that they wore that were not a certain brand, or they were not, maybe they were hand-me-downs. Something to do with that. Being able to make peace with that and not try to build one's self-esteem through having, that kind of, those material possessions, is a very important thing. I don't have this particular Chiron sign, but I remember like coming of age, or, I don't really know what coming of age is, but being a teenager, when designer jeans were a thing, right around the time the 80s began, materialism began to be celebrated. Remember that movie, Wall Street, Greed is Good. So just knowing, what it feels like to go, go to a high school where a lot of people they're more affluent. And, I had that experience myself. So I understand that of not having what someone else does and feeling that sense of insecurity about that because there was that pressure. And who knows, that pressure was probably, you know, internalized, or generated from me, not necessarily anybody telling me this. But at that age, young people just want to be like everybody else. That's just, they want to fit in, and that's understandable. So being able to appreciate your evolution from coming from that kind of space until now, when you are an adult and you can be different, you can grow, you can change, you can evolve. And let me see what else. And one of the things too that I think is really important to point out is that some people have issues with money where they think it really is the root of all evil. They renounce money, they want nothing to do with it. And that kind of thing can lead to having very extreme views, and that could indicate a person who needs healing from this issue as well, because I would never get fooled and think that that person was completely renounced from the issue of money. They're just trying to degrade money and make it seem like it isn't something that is desirable for society, and that it's actually detrimental to society. So if you are one of those people who actually rejects money, really, really go within and see, are you being reactionary? And does it come from the past? Does it come from something that feels painful that you're trying to heal by cutting this out of your life? The truth is, we can't, even if we wanted to, because money still plays a role. So we have to make peace with it, and without making it the centerpiece of one's life. Let's see what else I wanted to say about this. Okay. She says avoidance of risk, which means being overly cautious. Now, risk is something that it's just like, even if you were playing like the stock market or something like that, there are times when people feel like they are comfortable with risking things, and sometimes when they're very uncomfortable, when they want to be as safe as possible. So it's important to note that, accepting risks is probably not always a good idea, because, there might be times when you want to have guarantees that you're not going to lose your money or whatever other type of risk you're engaging in. But if you just do it across the board, and this, talking about your life in general, you're not happy with your job, but you're afraid to take another job because you're afraid that it won't work out, and then you'll be without a job and without this job that you've put in X amount of time in it. But you're not happy with it, so you're kind of downplaying that. I actually saw another site that was, making it seem like Taurus was very capable of suffering. And I thought that was odd because I have Taurus rising and just thought that was odd. But basically they were saying that Taurus has a high, I don't know, like a high tolerance level for pain, maybe because they don't want to change or something like that. Well, maybe, maybe not. I mean, I think Taurus people, they tolerate nonsense up to a certain, point, and then they just like let loose or just like let go of that situation. It just finally gets to that boiling point. Um, Now, she mentions also being very insecure within the body itself. So, if you are somebody who has Uranian aspects, because Uranus is supposed to be connected to the nervous system. I feel like, so if you have the sun in conjunction with Uranus, or maybe you're in Aquarius, Mars in Aquarius, who knows? I mean, there are many permutations. You may be somebody who is very high strung, maybe even Gemini could be like that, and you may have uh, that tendency to feel ungrounded and to feel, yeah, like lack of grounding. And they have, it's like the vagus nerve. Don't ask me, I haven't really explored it. So, but I've read, titles of videos where they say, vagus nerve exercise. So to calm the nervous system. So that could be part of your healing. Another site mentioned overeating. Maybe that's that sense of security. And that certainly is the case that some people, there are cultural influences where having a bigger body is considered a sign of prosperity. And I think they were talking about even adults, but I know like sometimes with children, they think it's good to have like a baby that is big or young child that's big because maybe, they experienced a lot of, I was going to say financial suffering, but food insecurity or something like that, where there were malnourished, gaunt children and adults and, in their society. And so being overfed is considered preferable. So the healing could be in learning about what are healthy foods. Taurus is an earth sign, so natural, nature, what kind of foods. I feel like that can be a route to health, to wellness, and but not just obviously physically, but that sense of inner worth by feeding the body in a way that honors it. And if have issues with the way that you look, sometimes those include weight issues. Again, it could be a distortion. It doesn't have to be something that's really real. But by eating nourishing foods, you know that you are feeding your body well, and that becomes your first concern rather than a number on the scale. So that could be a way to heal. And also, as I touched upon earlier, having a spiritual practice which, continues to show you how you are a spiritual being having a human experience rather than being so immersed in the material world that you forget about the spiritual, the immaterial, because that's really what the spiritual is. It's immateriality. This is a world that celebrates the material. So, delving into the invisible, the intangible, is a way to let go of that need to possess people, places, and things. Okay, I think I'm going to leave it there. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a private reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.